So we've come outside into the naughty person's area to do this interview. I've managed to find Marina Lee, and how have you found the expo so far?
It's been good. I was only here for an hour. I got here really late, but it was good. I've just been like drooling over all the lingerie and latex and
all the outfits.
Yes, it's really good.
Yeah, it's actually been really hard for me because I've been walking around there trying to be professional and trying to do interviews going, I want to buy this, I want to buy this, I want to buy this.
Got a big list, yeah.
I've seen those Dom masks and I've fallen in love with those lately.
The Dom mask.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, they're like the leather face mask thingies with the studs and the
Oh,
holes.
yeah,
and
yeah.
The only problem is that I find when I play, people often comment about my shit-eating grin. It tends to really piss off a sub when you say they're grinning. And to lose that, so I'm trying to work out.
Yeah, look, that's it. Like, it masks half your face. The whole thing is like looking up at a dom, right, and seeing their grin or their conniving. Like,
yeah.
You need that.
So there's a part of me that looks at it and goes, there's a good thing that half my face is covered, but it's a bad thing. I don't know. I've got
Probably
to work
good
it
for
out.
like certain scenes, I imagine.
Yeah,
Like if you want to be kind of removed from your sub and like quite almost like leering and like inhuman.
That
almost.
ominous sort of thing.
Like this ominous presence rather than like a human. I think it would work really well for that.
Yeah. So what's your favourite thing you've seen in there?
Oh, spent a lot of the time just like chatting in a corner, to be honest.
I imagine you wouldn't be able to walk more than 4 feet in there without someone saying hi and stopping you.
Yeah, I
and-
knew a fair amount of people in there. The lingerie, I don't know, the leather.
Did you see
outfits.
the designers that they've had this year? I mean, the fashion show gets bigger and bigger every year, but some of the designers this year were just amazing.
I miss the fashion shows.
Oh no!
I'm sure I'll see all the photos later, so it's fine.
You just came here for like none of it.
I came here to like wear some hot latex and just stand around.
No, that's not it. Came to be seen.
Yeah,
came
I
to
think
be
that's
seen.
like for a lot of people, it's about dressing up and being amongst queer kinky people. Like I think that's
Look,
what
the
it is.
the community side of it is just amazing. We've spoken to a few people about that, just how amazing and how inclusive the community is. I was talking to the guy from the Australian Lesbian and Gay Archives, and we're just talking about the inclusion within the kink community. But it was interesting also his take on it, that to a large degree, a lot of what we have in kink actually started from the lesbian and gay community and then got adopted by kink, which was
Absolutely.
interesting because I'd always seen it as the other way around. I always sort of,
Yeah,
I was
of
one of
course
those.
you did.
I was one of those people that went, no, we're a wonderful community. You're more than welcome. I didn't realise we're the visitors.
See, I think it's actually about, it started in the queer community, it started in queer spaces, and now, because the kink community, at least here, is quite white and is quite cis, I think it's actually about queer people reclaiming kink for ourselves, and like carving out that space in the community as it exists now. Because we don't really, I think people give lip service to it, like a lot of people are very welcoming, but it's like, actually we need people to openly make space for us because, look to the history of kink.
So that's actually an interesting thing that I suppose comes to mind is, because I know you're a big advocate, obviously, for the queer community. Do you find it something where you sort of go, like you use the word reclaim, is it something where you're going, no, we actually want this back, or you're sort of going, we just want to be adequately acknowledged, but you're more than welcome to be part of this?
It's not that we're trying to take it away from anyone at all. I think it's about, for example, like all of the kink spaces, the play spaces in Melbourne, like most of the venues are for gay men. Like look at Wed and Wellington, they give one night a month, for people of any gender to come and play. I really think that's pathetic, and like I really respect, and that is a gay space for sure. A lot of the spaces are gay, but it's for gay men. So I think it's about like diversifying like those spaces, like making all genders welcome, recognizing that there are more than two genders, and like having physical spaces, having events for us, having our sexuality is welcomed.
And I suppose as we progress and as there's more and more gender identifications that become acknowledged, if you have separate nights, you're going to end up with one night a month for every gender identity, whereas if you incorporate them all and make everybody welcome at all of them, not only does it make people feel more comfortable because they're more openly acknowledged, but it means that they have more time and more parties and more venues.
For sure. I think a good mix needs to happen. I think that I've heard from a few gay men that like it really fucks with their vibe when there are women around, which like I'm a bit like, oh, but I get it. And by the same token, I think that women and gender diverse people also need those exclusive spaces whilst also having like a broader range of events that everyone is welcome to. But I guess, you know, like in having events that everyone's welcome to, we need to know that those spaces aren't dominated by straight cis white people. You know, I think like it's not about like us being allowed into a space and just like having to kind of like play in the corner, you know, because often when that happens, like we're still othered. Like there's still lots of straight people who are just kind of like almost objectifying us as like the weirdos who are, you know,
The weirdos who are accepted.
Yeah, whose bodies are different and whose play or, you know, identities might not even be understood, you know. So I think we need to be able to occupy like space in that, and yeah.
So I posted something recently, the whole same-sex marriage debate, and I commented something recently that I dream of a time when we don't have any discussions about same-sex marriage, we just have marriage. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where we won't need to be campaigning for, you know, for different gender identifications, for different sexualities? Do you think, like, in our lifetimes we'll ever get to a point where this stuff will all just become irrelevant?
No. I think that, you know, this debate goes far beyond marriage. I think that it's fucking pathetic that, you know, our relationships are being up for debate, but I think different genders and different kinds of relationships, like, this marginalization is institutional, and until we actually rework these structures, like, you know, we're still going to be having these conversations. Like, it's really like deeply rooted, this marginalization, and we're not going to see. We're making changes slowly, but it's, you know, in our lifetime, it's never going to be equal. We're never, you know, these marginalized communities are never actually going to, like, you know, fully be able to like rise out of this oppressive state until we look at our institutions. So that's a big fucking task.
Yeah, I see that very much as a generational thing. Like I look at my parents' generation and their attitudes. I look at my generation and our attitudes, and I look at my child, and I've got now one cousin and one nephew who at the age of, I think both of them at the age of 15, very openly came out. And I know that in my day, that would have been such a big deal, and it would have been such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It seems to be getting easier now, and I almost get the feeling it's like we just need another couple of generations to die off. I mean, I know it sounds brutal to say it, but I almost look at the next generation below it and sort of go, I think they're sort of getting it right. I think they're sort of getting it right, and I don't know, I look at them and I think maybe when they're my generation, we may not have all of these issues and discussions. And
I think there's been a lot of social change. There's been a lot of social change, and I think it's amazing. But, you know, like, look at the people who are still, you know, working at institutions, and it's still, they're still conservative. They're still, you know, even in younger generations. I think, like, queer spaces are incredible, and like even more generally outside of queer spaces, like younger generations are becoming more progressive and more open to diversity, but you know, it's not enough. There's a much bigger picture there that we need to acknowledge.
Jumping off this for a second and back to your involvement with Oz Kink Fest. Now you're on one of the panels, I believe. Mm-hmm. That's the Working in Kink, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, don't know what the actual name is.
Yeah,
something like
just
that. Frisky business.
We'll put a little banner or something. Yeah. It's fine. We can fix that up.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that?
Yeah. So it's being run by Mistress Electra and Our Kink, and basically they've got together a bunch of incredible BDSM professionals. So I'm representing like a pro-submissive experience and perspective. There's a few pro-mistresses, pro-doms, switches, and yeah, we'll be talking about doing that professionally.
Now, I've spoken to you before about the whole pro-submissive side, but interestingly that you bring up about there also being pro-doms, because I think one of the things that you touched on when you were talking about the pro-submissive, and I think also I listened in when you were talking to Our Kink about it, and a lot of what you do tends to be with working with dominants who are new, who are inexperienced, and you're doing a lot of, I suppose, really sort of topping from the bottom and teaching and coaching and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I think that's very different with the pro-doms that are doing that, they're really sort of they're taking in more hardcore submissives who are just trying to find somebody who can take them on that journey?
Oh, not necessarily. I think that like it depends on the worker, of course. But like lots of the pro doms that I know see a range of like really experienced submissives who've been exploring that for 20 years, say, and they're also seeing newbies who have maybe only seen escorts, or like paid for vanilla services, or who haven't seen a professional at all, and are like, oh, what's this new experience that I could, start to explore. And then in that case, you've got pro doms who are similar to me, like guiding that learning process.
Do you ever, one last question, it's a little bit personal, but do you ever find that, and especially this came up, I was thinking about actually while I was listening to you talking to the Kink guys, but do you ever actually get to a point where you sort of, it sounds horrible to say, but where you get a little bit sick or a little bit unfulfilled working with, like when you're pro subbing, do you ever sort of get to an end of a day or at the end of a week and go, fuck, I actually need to call somebody because like I need something for me?
Like I think I have a good balance of professional subbing and personal subbing. Like I don't look for work. I don't look at work as fulfilling my personal submissive needs. That's never been an objective for me. Like that's why I got into it, because I love subbing, of course, like I'm passionate about it, but like for me, I get those needs met with my personal lovers, my personal playmates. So,
okay,
yeah.
no, cool. Thank you very much for your time. I'm
Thank
going to let
you.
you go back in and enjoy yourself.
Great.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.